crazy because this win feels much different than last week's win over the Texans.
Absolutely, because it's a different team, right? 49ers are in a different caliber than the Houston Texans with their great defense. And Jimmy G he's a proven quarterback. He's taken the team to Super Bowls, NFC Championship. So this win is actually a good win. I feel, comfortable after watching the game. Last week I was like, look,
right.
This season's going to go, it's not going to go as well as we thought. But after this game, I was like, you know what? This team looks pretty good, man.
Crazy how just 1 week can shift that mindset, even though it was still an ugly, ugly game. All right, let's jump into it. Let's start with What's on Marshall's Mind, as we always start our podcast with that. What's on Marshall's Mind brought to you by Breckenridge Distillery, the official bourbon of the Denver Broncos. Shop Colorado retailers for their limited edition Broncos bourbon blends today. B. Marsh, what you got?
Man, you know what? I think the word for today is battle-tested. First 3 games, close games, right? We should be 3-0. If it wasn't for those 2 fumbles we had in Seattle.
Even just one. You take away one of those fumbles and it turns into a touchdown.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden.
And we win the football game, right? Yeah. But I will say this, in 2015, and I'm going to go there.
You're going there.
Okay? The 2015 Broncos, I want to say we had 11 wins, right? Under 7 points, 7 points or less.
That's right, yeah.
And because of that, we were battle tested. Now, teams were like, I'm sure the fans and the media was like, well, this Broncos team is kind of average. They're not blowing people out. It's not sexy. It doesn't have to be sexy. We still won this championship, right? We went to the Super Bowl and we won. So the team, continues to be battle tested. They won 11-10 for Christ's sake, which is crazy, by the way. It's a wild sport.
Second time ever that's happened.
Yeah.
The last team to do it, the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers, they went on to win the Super Bowl.
Hey.
I'm not saying that's the bar, but you're throwing out 2015. I'm throwing out 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
It is crazy the way that game went down. So you're getting some 2015 vibes.
Well, just because, the offense isn't stellar.
Right.
It wasn't stellar in 2015. And I was a little worried about the defense the first week because, Geno Smith, essentially lit up the defense, 17 for 18 at one point, which was nuts to me. But, last week, the second half of the Seattle game, last week and this week, I'm like, actually, this defense looks pretty good. They held, San Francisco to 1 for 10 on third down. That's how you win the game. And that's winning football right there, winning defense. So, I was a little kind of shaky on the Broncos defense after week 1, but hey, they looked good last night.
And what's crazy is that they have done this over the last 2 games without Justin Simmons. They're all pro safety back there. Shout out to Kareem Jackson and Caden Stearns. I think those guys have played really well, certainly well enough for the Broncos to win games. To me, the difference is, 1, they're creating turnovers, and 2, they're getting after the quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously we know that that's what your team did in 2015. But they had 4 sacks last night. Bradley Chubb looks like Bradley Chubb pre all the injuries. Randy Gregory, I think, has been a fantastic signing for this team. And now if I'm an offensive coordinator, I have to be worried about the way that this team is able to get after the quarterback. Josie Jewell was able to get one last night.
Yeah.
That, to me, is something that has been missing over the last couple of years with this Broncos defense, the sacks and the takeaways, and we've seen both of those through the first 3 games.
Yeah, look, Chubb looks like he's back to Pro Bowl form.
Yeah.
Randy Gregory is disruptive. Okay, so now the recipe, that we had and that was proved to be successful for us was we had great pass rushers and we had great DBs. Okay, inside linebackers.
The inside linebackers,
it was all right.
You said it, not me.
But having PS2, right? Patrick Surtain is legit. He's literally a guy, right? Ronald Darby, Kareem Jackson. When Justin Simmons gets back, we have a great back end. Okay, and also we have great rushers to get to the quarterback and to give him that pressure so he makes maybe errant throws or whatever the case may be. But the defense looks good. The Randy Gregory sign was really good.
Yeah.
To me, it's funny because I was watching. It was in free agency, and I was like, why not give somebody else that money? But hey, it's working. So I'm happy for it.
Now let me ask you this: so what kind of confidence does it give the defense? Was there a time in that 2015 season where you guys felt like, okay, cool, we're going to have to win some games, but we know we can do it?
Yeah.
And so what is that conversation like in the locker room when you know that your offense is pretty much inept? Yeah. However, as a defense, you've allowed 1 touchdown in the last 10 quarters of football this season. That is really, really impressive. So was there a moment in that season where you guys knew, okay, here's how it is going to be. We're going to have to win games. And then was there a moment where you felt like, okay, cool, we can do this. Because if I'm that Broncos defense, I now know that I can win football games for this team.
Absolutely. So, first of all, we knew in training camp that we were legit. I remember, I was hurt. I had my foot surgery, and I'm watching. I'm like, first of all, I'm watching Peyton take snaps from under center.
You knew Peyton wasn't right.
I knew he wasn't right, which is why I didn't draft him in fantasy. but to watch him take snaps from under center was awkward. But nonetheless, the defense looked great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we look really good, right? So the first game we played the Ravens, we put the ball game away, at the end, okay? Darren Stewart got an interception, right? And I was like, okay, this is good. Second week, I forced a fumble on Jamal Charles. Bradley Roby scored, and we won the football game. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We're actually a good defense. We can put teams away just our side of the ball. Then fast forward to playing Aaron Rodgers, 2 undefeated teams, Packers, Broncos. And I want to say we held Aaron to 77 yards passing. And I'm like, we're legit. That's when week 6, we were 6-0, but I was like, or 5-0, 6-0. At that point, I was like, I knew we were good, but to hold Aaron Rodgers to 77 yards passing, I'm like, oh, yeah, we're legit.
Now, that's awesome, right? I mean, that's really good. It's great that the defense can do that for you. Did it ever become an issue when you're like, hey, man, we can only do so much?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And, I think that 2016 and that 2017 season, after you guys won the Super Bowl, everybody felt like, okay, the defense is going to have to be that caliber. But at some point, the offense has to help you out. So does it get frustrating? Because it's all cool and fun and games on a Monday after a win when your defense forces 3 turnovers and has 4 sacks. But at some point, did it get frustrating? Like, come on, offense, can't you give us something?
Absolutely. Look, so when we played the Chiefs the second time, okay, Peyton, I want to say threw 3 or 4 picks, and it was like, and also even playing a team like the Bengals, and we ended up winning that game, but after, because I want to say the offense started to look real pedestrian. Maybe after, I guess, Peyton got hurt.
Yeah.
They started looking real pedestrian, and then we started to get frustrated and annoyed on the sidelines. When 3-and-outs happen, when turnovers happen, it's almost like, here we go again. Okay, now obviously you got to just set your jaw and just get the job done, because that's what we get paid to do. But at some point, we playing the Chiefs and we're getting dogged by the Chiefs. Peyton throws like 3 or 4 interceptions, and I'm like, this is crazy. Brock comes in, gives us new life when we played the Steelers. I'm like, okay, cool. But even as Brock started to progress, he looked pretty good, but then the offense was still kind of shaky towards the very end, which is why they put Peyton in against the Chargers. Helped us get to the number 1 seed in the playoffs. But absolutely, you get frustrated, and you kind of talk to each other inside like, here we go again. I'm talking to Danny like, okay, bro. But it's some people that complain more than others. You know what I'm saying? Like DBs and D-line are complainers. They complain a lot. But hey, we end up getting it done.
Well, and that's why I loved going to Aqib Talib after a game like that, because you knew he was going to give you that soundbite. So at what point does that become frustrating? It's the turnovers in the 3-and-outs, because the Broncos had 9 3-and-outs last night.
Yeah, it's the turnovers and the 3-and-outs, because at the end of the day, if the defense is doing their job, we just want to rest a little bit. We want to sit down and be able to make some adjustments, or be able to catch our breath, or process what happened the last drive. But when it's bang, 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 run, pass, punt, you know what I'm saying? And that's the recipe that you have. You get annoyed and the crowd starts booing. First of all, I'm watching it and the crowd is booing, and I'm like, oh, Lord, they booing Russell Wilson. It's going crazy right now. And, I think we had that as well, because, fans could be very unruly.
You know what it is in my mind is it's the expectation.
Yes.
Right? And in 2015, there was an expectation that you guys were going to be Super Bowl contenders.
Yes.
This year, coming in, it's that we were going to see a better brand of football than what we have seen from the Broncos, especially on the offensive side of the ball, through 3 games. And so that's why I think Broncos country has been so quick to boo.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago against the Texans, it was the delay of games and all the penalties and the decision not to go for it on 4th down. Questionable play calls and all that. Last night it was frustration. Like, man, come on. You told us it was going to be different. It hasn't been different. This is the SOB, same old Broncos. And so I think that's why the boos have come out so early and so often this year.
I like the SOB.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah, gotta be careful.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And look, you trade for Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Okay. You give up a haul for Russell, and then you pay him a certain amount, which is obviously ridiculous, right? And I mean, it's great. When I say ridiculous, that's a lot of money. Okay, so with a lot of money comes different expectations.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we gave you $250 million. We need 30 points on the board.
Yes.
Right? Or we need to at least average 25, 21, 24 points a game. And it's been 16, 16, 11. Right? So it's like
We could have done that with Teddy and Drew.
all day. You know what I'm saying? And now, thank God that, you know, you do have a Russell Wilson who, you know, could make plays with his feet and do things what he did, you know, towards the end of the game last night. But at the end of the day, you know, the fans, like you said, they're expecting a better brand of football, more excitement, because at the end of the day, we're entertainers.
Yeah.
Right? We're here to entertain. Now, we don't look at it like that. Like, I'm here to play football. It's the X's and O's. I got to do my job. But the fans want to be entertained, and they don't want continuous 3 and outs from a $250 million quarterback.
No, absolutely not. 10 punts last night for the Broncos. So,
Yeah.
Russell Wilson said after the game he thinks the offense is close to getting it. Is it really? We will discuss that and more. Plus, we'll hand out some grades next on Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Back inside Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy, hanging out with Brandon Marshall. B. Marsh, so I want to talk about this because we kind of touched on it in the last segment, but the boos from last night at Mile High. One, in your mind, were they warranted? Two, what's that like as a player when your home crowd is booing you? They may not be booing the defense, but they're booing your team as a whole. What's that like?
Because typically they do boo the offense, but we're a team, right? So what it's like for me is, it's not like we're not out here trying, okay, or giving 100% effort. I feel like boos are warranted when you're giving, you know, you have a lack of effort, right? Or you see just crazy sloppy football, you know what I'm saying? A bunch of turnovers or different things like that. But it was just 3 and outs. They were trying. That maybe the play calling wasn't great, but also the 49ers get paid too, right? They have
They have the number 1 defense coming into last night's game.
The number 1 defense, right? So at the end of the day, you know, the boos aren't warranted. I don't think so, you know, because it's not a sloppy brand of football, and it's not like it's a lack of effort. We're out here giving you our all, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we're doing.
So were they warranted the week before when there was sloppy football and sloppy play calling?
Yeah.
That you're okay
exactly,
with?
Because, you know, we talk about a brand of football, right? You know, the Broncos organization have an expectation. Okay, this is not the Detroit Lions. This is not the New York Jets. This is the Denver Broncos, 3-time Super Bowl champs. Okay, John Elway, Peyton Manning. The brand of football that the fans of Denver expect is different than if we were in Detroit. Okay, so I understand that part, but at the same time, understand our side of the story, right? We're out here busting our butts, risking our bodies. Yes, we love the game. Yes, we get paid well, but at the same time, we're going hard. Okay, if we have some mishaps, that just is what it is. We're humans. That's the part of the game. But I think booing, I wouldn't be mad at the fans boo if we were out here sloppy, missing tackles, right? You know, not really going hard, or, you know, a bunch of turnovers and different things like that, a delay of games, you know, penalties. I understand that. But last night, it wasn't warranted.
What is that feeling like when you're on the sideline and you hear the boos? Because I'm of the mindset, I don't think it's motivating for you guys. You're not like, oh, the fans are booing, we better get our act together and start kicking, you know?
It's definitely not motivating. What it does is kind of, well, it depends on the person you are. Well, first of all, I just kind of like tuning out. You know, I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go out here and do my thing regardless. I don't know how a quarterback would take it, like a Trevor Siemian or a Brock or a Peyton Manning, you know, Russell. You know, because the pressure is almost,
that's on them.
The pressure is almost mostly on their shoulders, and the head coach, offensive coordinator calling the plays. But to be honest, I just kind of tune them out. I hear it, I'm like, okay, all right, it's clearly it's ugly right now, you know, because to be honest, and I might look at them, right? I've been on the sideline while the offense is on the field, getting booed, and I've looked at the offense getting ready to go back on defense. And I'm looking at the offense like, Hey, I feel him right now. I understand because we want to boo him too.
I want to boo him too. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Oh, that's great. So Russ comes out after the game and he's like, look, we're close. And he said this even leading up to last night's game. He was like, look, if you go back and look at the red zone situations, we may be 0 for 6 on paper, but really, I think we're 5 of 6. And he breaks it down. You know, Cortland Sutton steps out of bounds, comes down out of bounds on the grab against the Texans. He had the 2 fumbles at the goal line. That's 3. He broke down a couple more. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, you know, what's the old saying, ifs and buts or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, the bottom line is you're 0 for 6.
Yeah.
They feel, or at least he is telling us that they feel like they're close. I don't necessarily see it. When you have 9 3-and-outs, when your punter is on the field 10 times, I have a hard time feeling like this offense is close to where it is. Now, it wasn't as bad as necessarily it was against the Texans, but I don't know that anybody's sitting here and looking at the stat sheet going, okay, 1 for 1 inside the red zone, 261 yards total offense. Man, we're really close to being where we want to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't look at this offense and see like it's promising. I think the only thing that makes it promising is the fact that we have Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And so that gives a lot of people hope. Like,
Yes.
okay, we have Russell, so at some point we'll figure it out. You know, when we had the Drew Locks and the Teddy Bridgewaters, and you know, the expectation was kind of low. You didn't really have a hope. The ceiling wasn't as high. But with Russell, you have almost gives you like okay, you know, maybe this week, maybe this time it'll happen. So, you know, and him trying to break down is what the coaches do. Coaches will come in to give players confidence. You're like, look, guys, we really should be 5 or 6. It's just a couple mishaps, fumbles, and da. But in the reality, we made mistakes, right? In the reality, we're not 5 or 6, okay, because of the things that has occurred during the game, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I get it, and I get trying to, you know, kind of ease Broncos country and ease your players. But look, these mistakes got to stop.
One thing I did like from the Broncos offense last night is that they were balanced, perfectly balanced. 33 passes, 33 rushing attempts. You go back to last week's game against the Texans, 31 rushes, 31 passing attempts. They were perfectly balanced in those 2 games, and they've won both of those games. You go back to Seattle, it was like 42-21 or 42-20 or something in terms of more passes than more rushes. I'm a fan of they need to continue to run the ball more. Let's see here. Javonte Williams, 3.9 yards per carry. Melvin Gordon, 2.2 yards per carry. Not great, but again, I think a lot of that has to do with San Francisco's defense being really good. But I think that is going to be a key for their offensive success, is continue to be really balanced as you head into next week's game against the Raiders, and then you come home on a short week against the Colts on Thursday night. I think they need to continue to find that balance. Doesn't have to be exactly balanced, but it's got to be a lot closer than it was in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm with you 100% because you got to use your weapons. We have Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. We have 2 great backs. Now, I'm not saying our offensive line is the greatest.
No,
they're not the best.
Protection's questionable.
Yeah, it's very questionable, but with the balanced attack, we see what can happen right now. I know you paid your quarterback a lot of money, so you want to trust him with the football. But look, it's about winning games. You know, if we win games, that $250 million is warranted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You worry about the contract in a year or 2. You know what I'm saying? So, I love the balance. You know, and I love utilizing your weapons. You know, Melvin has to hold on to the football. You know, it gets scary when he runs with the rock. You know what I'm saying? It gets spooky. All right, but at the end of the day, Russell Wilson knows how to take care of the football. Yeah. A beast in Javonte Williams, a beast in Melvin. You know, we have good receivers. It's just, you know, talk about putting it together. I don't think they're close, but we have the right, you know, ingredients. We just got to mix it up and, you know what I'm saying, put it together.
And where that $250 million that you paid for Russ comes in is where we saw it last night. Late in the game, Broncos get the ball. You need a guy in the huddle that your team believes in and that you feel like, okay, he's going to make the right decisions here. He ran a little bit on that drive because I think he knew how important that drive was.
He had to.
You know, he had some opportunities earlier in the game where he didn't take them. And I think you're going to see that more from Russ, to where he's going to say, okay, it's second quarter. We don't necessarily need me to make a play right now with my feet. But in the fourth quarter of a tight ball game, I'll go ahead and run a little bit. I think that that's going to be kind of part of his evolution moving forward. But part of the reason why you go out and get Russ is because of those situations. Because I think last night was a game that this team probably would have lost over the last several years. But you had a guy in Russell Wilson at quarterback on the final drive and you're able to go 12 plays and end up in a Melvin Gordon touchdown.
Okay, but also let's not forget, shout out to Jimmy Garoppolo.
For helping the Broncos out?
Shout out to Jimmy G, okay? Because he helped us out right now. I guess on that play, he would have threw a pick six anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Bradley Chubb, right? But shout out to Jimmy G pulling the Dan Orlovsky.
Nobody's happier than Dan Orlovsky
right.
today.
But Dan's was way worse, though. First of all, he's literally running out of bounds. Come on, you have to know where you're at. Where's the field awareness? That helped, but like you said, getting a Russell Wilson caliber of player, right? When the game is on the line in crunch time, when you need a play made, and he goes out and puts on a great drive, right? Melvin scores the last touchdown.
Yep.
That, like you said, that is what we paid him for, okay? Because in past years, in them situations, there's no way we would have drove down the field and won the football game.
Nope.
I mean, maybe if we would have got to the 40, maybe B-Mac would have made a kick potentially. Right. But, there's no way we would have went all the way down. And we have the utmost confidence in Russ because from what we've seen in the Seattle days and what we've seen last night.
Yeah, and I think that is felt throughout the huddle as well. All right, let's jump into our report card. Our report card today brought to you by Colorado Lottery. Play CBS 4 Pick the Score for your chance to win $1,000 in scratch tickets. Enter at cbscolorado.com/contest. Not often that we give out a grade to the punt team, but Corliss Waitman and his crew were on fire last night. B-Marsh, what you got on the report?
On fire. 10 punts, right? Shout out to the punt team. Average 46 yards, net 43. So they was doing well, right? The punt team was covering well. First of all, covering 10 kicks is tough, okay? Especially with the athletes that, the NFL has catching the punts. But to hold them to, or the net to be that good, right, off of the average is great, first of all. So shout out to the punt team. Being out there for 10 plays, if you think that, if I just looked at the stat sheet, they punted 10 times? They definitely lost.
Right. Corliss Waitman played more than Nick Bonito, your second-round pick, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
No, it's certainly not. But shout out to Corliss Waitman and his crew, and Dwayne Stukes, the special teams coordinator, who called out Corliss Waitman in the media on Thursday of this week, said that they needed to be better, and they were. You also have another grade that you want to hand out. You're just giving A's left and right today.
Oh, yeah. A shout out to the Broncos defense, man. All right. They get an A from me, okay? We got Bradley Chubb playing great. They sacked the quarterback. Was it 4 sacks?
4 sacks.
4 sacks.
3 turnovers.
3 turnovers, interception. P.J. Locke punched the ball out at the end on Wilson. They looked great. They was flying around. They covered well. They held Deebo Samuel in check, which was the X factor for the 49ers, right? They held Kittle in check. Their run game, which is 49ers bread and butter. Look, man, they played stellar last night.
Kittle was the one guy I was worried about because we know the Broncos have had trouble covering him in the past.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to mention who was on the field
terrible.
during some of those games.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank God I was on the sideline. It was terrible. He set a record, didn't he?
But he was running wide open in that game. But you're right. They held him in check last night. Final numbers on George Kittle. Let's see here. 4 receptions for 28 yards?
That's a win. I'm taking that.
You will absolutely
100%.
take that. I'm going to give out a grade because it's become tradition. Nathaniel Hackett, but I'm upgrading him this week.
Okay.
He went from D. I'm giving him a C.
Yes, sir.
5 penalties, no delayed games. Made the hire of Jerry Rosberg. I'm not going to sit here and rave on Nathaniel Hackett for making a hire because he wasn't good enough to do his job in the first place. The offense still leaves a lot to be desired, though. I originally had this as a B, and then I started thinking about the offense, and that's his side of the ball. He's supposed to be the offensive mastermind, coming in, dialing things up. That's what's keeping him from getting bumped up to a B. But I will upgrade him from a D.
Shout out to Rosberg. Because apparently, I guess he wanted to go for it on 4th down. I guess it was in our territory.
Oh, okay.
And that's what it said. It said he wanted to go for it on 4th down, and Jerry told him no.
All right.
I'm not sure how true that was. I saw it on Twitter. Sometimes it could be, the validity of things could be, but shout out to Jerry.
All right. Good to know. Hey, when we come back, it's time to zoom around the league. We'll tell you which players we're keeping our eye on for Monday Night Football in our Underdog Fantasy Draft. Cowboys-Giants coming up tonight. That's next, right here on Upon Further Review, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Travel consideration is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Welcome back inside upon further review of B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. It is time to zoom around the league. Zoom around the league brought to you by ZoomCare. Visit ZoomCare.com to learn more about their Beyond Better urgent and primary healthcare clinics in Denver and in Boulder. Another crazy week in the NFL, especially late in games. Not as many double-digit reversals, losses turning to wins, wins turning to losses, as they say on Red Zone. But another crazy week. And how about the Miami Dolphins, B?
Look, I was posed with a question last week if the Miami Dolphins were for real. And I say, we got to wait to see because they got a real team coming to town. Not saying that the Ravens weren't real because they were, but the Bills, the Super Bowl contending Bills, in my opinion, and they handle them, right? Now, the Bills had some injuries, and I understand that. But at the same time, they're still loaded. Okay, they have Josh Allen, MVP candidate. He threw the ball 63 times.
That's crazy.
Right? He had 400 yards passing. Two only had 186, and they still won the game. Shout out to the Dolphins' defense and the run game.
You know what was crazy, too, was like, okay, they beat Baltimore, but it was kind of fluky, right?
Yeah.
When you have to have that type of comeback. Can they beat a good team like the Bills? And they were in that game for the entirety and obviously ended up coming up with a win. So, I think Miami might be for real. Now, I know September's for pretenders.
Yeah, for sure.
But I like what they're doing, and I love Mike McDaniel.
Hey, first of all, I've never heard that phrase before.
September's for pretenders?
It makes sense, though.
Yeah, doesn't it?
I mean, we were, in 2016, we were 4-0 in September and then missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But Mike McDaniel's right. Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to him. I got my eye on the AFC West as we zoom around the league. 1-3 yesterday. That one win was the Broncos. The Chiefs go to Indy and end up losing a game in which at one point they were favored by at least a touchdown. The Raiders are now sitting there at 0-3. The Chargers lose to the Jags.
But big, though.
Yes.
They lost big.
And, it's what is going on in this division that was supposed to be the toughest division in football?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, I don't know how you get beat 38-10 by Jacksonville.
That's bad.
Right? Now, I get Herbert had the ribs and Keenan Allen's out, but still the Chargers are loaded.
Maybe we're underestimating the Jags. Because they beat the Colts 24-0.
Yeah.
And then the Colts go and beat the Chiefs.
Right.
The Jags go and manhandle the Chargers.
The Jags
Jags
have a good roster. They just had Urban Meyer last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now this year they have a different roster. They have more weapons, but they had Urban Meyer who stayed behind and decided to go to a bar.
Right.
Which is crazy. But Doug Peterson is a good coach. I mean, I know they got rid of him in Philly, but Doug Peterson is the biggest get for the Jags this this offseason, man. So, we'll see how they do.
How worried should Raiders fans be right now about their football team that is 0-3?
I think really worried, I mean, because it's not like the schedule is getting easier.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think first of all, they were up 23-7 on the Cardinals, right? They should have won that football game. The Cardinals scored 16 points in the fourth quarter, and then they won overtime. Okay, they lost first week to the Chargers. Okay, all right, we'll go with that. But, the Titans are kind of bleeding. The Titans aren't a great football team, right? So then you got the Broncos coming up, the Chiefs, and then the Chargers again, and the rest of their schedule. So I think they're starting off 0-3.
Yeah.
They should be really worried.
Chance to go 0-4
100%.
next week, obviously, depending on what happens when the Broncos pay a visit. As for what is coming up tonight, Monday Night Football, the Cowboys and the Giants, and what I think will be a real sleeper of a game. However, we are going to draft our fantasy teams here. Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. B. Marsh, go ahead and join the draft.
Let's join it.
Let's get started here. And as you join,
okay,
we'll take time to remind our loyal viewers
that I'm 0-2.
Thank you. You beat me to the punch.
Okay. All right. You know what? I'm going to change my strategy up, for this sleeper of a game.
All right. See, and I have the first pick.
You have the first pick?
So that changes things.
That does
bit,
change things,
right?
So never mind. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
We won't discuss.
Oh, that's fine. No, I think I'm going to be all right. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'm not saying that I got the first pick because I've won the first two games.
Right.
It's just the way it's set up.
I like that. I'm cool. It takes less pressure.
Because you've gone receiver heavy.
Yes, I have.
And that hasn't worked out for you necessarily.
Yeah. I was listening to the wrong people.
I've gone running back heavy. You need to bring in a consultant.
And it's I do. I should hire him.
Jerry Rosberg, what are you doing? Mondays, 10 o'clock. Can you come in and help us out a little bit? Our draft starts in 20 seconds. That's why we're killing some time here. But yeah, we got Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, Sterling Shepard. I got a late touchdown from Quez Watkins that I was not expecting. That really helped me over the edge.
That helps you right
So
there.
I think that's the thing with some of this, right? Is like the players are going to play, but then can you get somebody deep in your roster that's going to go? So I'm going to go. I'm up first. I'm going to go Saquon Barkley. That seems like the easy shoe-in pick. I also have Barkley in some of my other fantasy leagues that are more season long. So give me Saquon Barkley.
You know what? I'm gonna go Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. All right. I'm gonna draft Zeke, and then for my next pick, we got Cooper Rush, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm just gonna go with CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb. I like that.
I hope Cooper does his thing.
Okay.
Okay. Get him the rock.
That seems to make sense. All right. So let's see. You got Zeke. I'm gonna go Sterling Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with my second pick there, I'm going to go Tony Pollard, right? Like, I mean, obviously, I think Zeke is going to get the bulk of the carries, but Tony Pollard can get in the end zone every now and then.
Yeah, he can. 100% he can.
And so
he's a home run hitter too.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do here.
Okay. I'm glad you picked Tony because I was going.
You were going to double up?
I'd have been crazy to have two running backs on the same team. But hey, I mean, okay. So, I actually been doing some due diligence on Richie James because I was going to pick him up in my last one of my other fantasy leagues.
Right.
He's getting a lot of targets, so I'm gonna go with Richie. Okay, I'm gonna go with Richie. Ah, man.
Yeah, this is where it gets.
No, it's getting kind of weird. I think Gallup's back, right?
He's doubtful.
He's doubtful. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with Dalton Schultz because.
But I love Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dalton Schultz. First of all, I don't even know who Noah Brown is. Do you know who Noah Brown is? I'm having a hard time with that one. But I'm gonna go with Dalton because Cooper Rush. I'm gonna go ahead, let me draft him real quick before they approve. Cooper Rush needs somebody who's comfortable, a comfort zone.
See, I'm in a situation here where I got Saquon and then I got Sterling Shepard. I have no skill players, no number one players from the Cowboys.
Right.
So I'm stuck here. I really love Michael Gallup, but I'm worried about guys coming off injuries and how they play. I'm gonna go with Noah Brown.
Noah Brown, yeah, okay. Dallas, okay. Cincinnati
scored his first career TD.
He had 5 catches, 91 yards against Cincinnati.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Noah Brown. So there it is. Okay.
Where we at?
Team Spencer.
Okay, let's see what we looking like.
Team Spencer rocking with Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Tony Pollard, and Noah Brown.
Okay.
Team Marshall, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, Richie James, and Dalton Schultz. So basically, if the Cowboys have a good night, you're going to win.
Then I'll be good. Now, I hope I don't end up like the Raiders, 0-3. Because that would be a disaster.
That'd be bad.
But it's not always how you start.
But you know what they say, September's for pretenders.
Come
Even
on.
in fantasy, right? You'll see what happens. Hey, that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for logging on to CBS News Colorado and hanging out with us today on Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. We will be back with you next week after the Broncos pay a visit to the Raiders in Vegas coming up on Sunday. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store.